Hey everyone, I hope you're well. Coming to you live today, whatever day it is, some day during the week from Melbourne. Let's have a look. Sunday, the 12th of July. I hope you've all had a great Sunday. A few things to get through. We're just out in the pouring rain today out at 33 Alfred Street, just trying to show a bit of support out there. I sort of say to everyone, family, friends, neighbors, the biggest thing right now is to not forget these people stuck out at 33 Alfred Street. I think they need public support. They need people to say, we're here with you. We understand that you're stuck there in this lockdown. There's been some freaking amazing people out there helping advocate for these guys now. I was a bit harsh against Fitzroy Legal and those groups because they didn't come out at the start of the lockdown. And I still think that the legal aid groups and the legal guys let down the people a lot. They should have been there from the first day when we started calling them. We pretty much called them every hour, on the hour, for the first 5 days, and not a single person was out there to be a legal advocate for these guys. And they needed that right there and then. Of course, it's all about spreading love and not hate. And, if they're there now and they're being legal advocates and they're being legal watchdogs on the ground, that's fantastic. And nothing but love to you guys. Get out there and get amongst it. And they're called legal observers. They run around in little pink vests and they watch everything that's going on. Now, even with them on the floor yesterday at Alfred Street, number 33 Alfred Street, yesterday they actually put up some fencing, which they called fencing, but it was more like a cage. And that's what they were referring it to, that people could go outside into a cage. It actually said it on the paperwork on DHHS. People could go out for fresh air into this cage area. And we're human beings, and all of us should think that that is just a disgusting act. And some of the legal guys, and in particular, a person on Instagram, which I think you guys should all follow them, jumped in and said that's not good enough. The person's name on Instagram is The Coloured Therapist. The Coloured Therapist on Instagram jumped in and got Phlegm Legal on side with them, and they stopped this from happening. So the fencing and the cage area got taken down, which is great. It's a win for the people to an extent. So people are getting out to get some fresh air. The concerns that are happening going forwards right now is payments. So people are meant to be getting monetary payments that they were promised. People who have been put out of work because of this. 2 weeks of rent is meant to be free, but people are getting rent taken out of their bank accounts. So we need to keep an eye on all those things. It's really, really important. So we need to continue to put money down for these guys. That has to come from the government now. Now, we have some really big things happening. We've got Peter Little out on the trail. Once he gets his nose into something, he's like a little ferret, and he won't stop until he gets what he needs out of this. So he's in there going and trying to work out some legal avenues for these guys. And there's a lot of holes in what's been going on from the government and whatnot. So hopefully he can get his teeth right into it now. So that would be fantastic. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what's been going on around the traps. So we have some issues that are going on here, and we need to look at them really strongly now. We need to get this out to as many people as possible. Now, the newest thing that they're putting out there about this coronavirus is that it seems to, for whatever reason, attract itself to these commission houses, but miss the housing next door, which is really interesting. The commission housing in areas get it, but the hotels and the staffers in private housing across the road, they don't get it. So they're both using the same, in a lot of cases, they're using the same shopping centres and they're using the same communal facilities, but one lot are getting it and one lot aren't getting it. I wouldn't be surprised to see that they try and do a lockdown in Carlton that says here more public housing tower residents, including those not part of the hard lockdown, have contracted COVID-19. Now, I just feel like I need to keep on calling bullshit on these things. Like, the thing is, if you understand how a virus works, if they've tested all the people in the Alfred 33 tower, if they've tested all of them, they've gone through and they've done a test on every single person. If 53 people have got this illness, if 53 people are showing as being sick, the others have all tested negative. Because people think the word asymptomatic means if you test them again in a couple of days, it's suddenly going to come up as being positive. The problem is the PCR test, for number one, doesn't really work properly. It's not made for detecting coronavirus. The second issue is anyone else in the public that gets tested and comes back as negative, we've read it in the DHHS side, they're allowed to go forwards and live their life normally. Now, why are they holding down all these people in this block? Because all the only narrative it could possibly be is to cause fear. And now they're talking about these people in the Carlton blocks and the fact that there's 23 people, I think they said, in the Carlton blocks here that have now contracted coronavirus or been confirmed to have coronavirus, which is kind of like, well, how can we say that this is, how can we say that it's just happening in these areas? How can you count just in the commission areas? It's more likely that you're testing a lot more of those people, and that's why you're getting higher figures in those areas, because the coronavirus tests don't actually work properly. So I don't know if there's many of you on here, but do feel free to interact and share this as well. It makes it much easier for me. It says here the hospital staff are getting this, nurses and doctors. And it says even though they've got PPE available to them, and they know what to do, there's still a risk that it can't be mitigated down to zero. Now, we're going to push for the workers from DHHS, the nurses and the doctors that worked on these sites, in these towers. They should all be in quarantine right now, because if that's not a close contact, I don't know what is. You're talking about close contacts being people who are in the same areas. These are all on the same sites. And it actually says on DHHS, if they're on the same site, they need to go down to being in quarantine. But I haven't heard of any of the police people or any of the nurses or any of the DHHS staff or even the volunteers. No one's been quarantined, and they've all been on these sites. So I'm saying to you, Dan Andrews and the rest of the crew, either this really is a virus that's highly contagious or it's just bullshit, because you're not following the DHHS initiatives that you've got put in place, the directives, the things you want to call laws. You're not following it for your own government staff. The other example of that is that politicians are allowed to travel interstate, and there's no testing and no quarantine done for the politicians. So how can you say that someone can't travel interstate for a wedding, or someone can't travel interstate for work unless they have a permit? And yes, every single politician travels interstate, doesn't need to quarantine, and doesn't need a permit. How do we know that these politicians aren't catching this disease? Bill Shorten was down at the location in Flemington in the back rooms with a lot of volunteers that were coming and going from inside the building. How do we know that Bill Shorten's not taking it straight into Parliament House? How's that any different, him travelling from Victoria up to Canberra and walking straight into Parliament House? How's that any different from Joe Blow driving across the border? And how can that be allowed? How can there be one set of rules for one lot of people and another set for others? How can the people in the commission homes get one lot of laws and the people outside of them get different laws? How can the workers go in and be close contacts with all these people, even if they're wearing masks, which we know don't actually stop the virus because they don't go down to the microns of what these viruses are? How are these people going in and out of these towers not going now into quarantine? Because they're close contacts, according to DHHS. So they should be sitting in quarantine for 14 days. I mean, they did the most amazing jobs ever, but every policeman that was on that site and every person that was working inside these buildings needs to be quarantined. And the police officers were literally coming from the building back out into the community centre, doing a switch over with the next lot of police that would come out. So they're all close contacts. So we call on all the police officers, all the nurses, and all the volunteers should be going into quarantine, because that's how it works. And you need to realise that this is wrong. And we've actually caught wind, and Darwin's just mentioned it too. It's actually on my list of things to talk about. They're looking to start doing vaccine trials in the hotspot locations. If you take a vaccine that's been made within 6 months, it's a crazy thing to do. And you're putting your life at risk, because these vaccines haven't been tested and they've only been made up over 6 months. Vaccines, I'm not pro or anti-vax, I'm pro-choice on vaccines, because my thought process, and it works with masks as well, if you want to have a vaccine and I don't want to have a vaccine. If you believe your vaccine works, you shouldn't give a shit if I take one or not because yours works. So I should be able to be pro-choice. If I decide to take it or not, if your vaccine works, it shouldn't matter if I take it or I don't take it. Just keep doing your vaccines every 6 months because that's how pro-choice works on everything. And this vaccine's been fixed and run through in 6 months, and then they expect people to take it. There should not be vaccine trials in any of these locations. And if they start offering money for people to take vaccines, we'll be out there with our letters from the legal team saying that you should be very careful with what you do here. If they start picking on the vulnerable and the people that aren't educated in these things, don't worry, we will be right there. We'll be there talking and being advocates for these people as well. Because if they try to enforce this on people, or if they try and pick off the people that they think aren't educated, they're going to find that they're very wrong. Because we've been and spoken to every single person in these commission flats and they understand. They all understand. Today, when we were out at Flemington, we had multiple people come over and say, hi, thank you for all you guys are doing, which was beautiful. But more than anything, they were saying they're awake to what's happening. And they know that they're being used as a test about how we can roll this out throughout all of Victoria. And if you can't see that they're starting to play on the fact that there's 23 people that are now in the Carlton flats that may have COVID-19. And if you can't see that if they look to impose a hard lockdown there, we'll be there on the first day and we won't leave. We can zigzag around all these places being advocates for the people, because what you'll find is these places start banding together and advocating for each other. And they're going to be a strong force once they do that. Oh, you don't want to mess with people once they get a bee in their bonnet and they learn to talk amongst each other and link up to be together again. You don't want to fight with that stuff. You don't want to mess with those people, because the strongest thing is unity, and people are starting to unite in the background. So be aware of that. There's a lot of unity happening right now, and I don't think anything's going to separate people again, because the unity that's going to grow from this is going to be stronger than ever before. So yeah, I feel like the other thing we need to be aware of is today we went down to AMSA. So that's the Muslim society that's been doing all the work. So where the government failed the people, these guys jumped on board from day one, getting those food deliveries, pummeling through all the bags, getting them to every building, Flemington, into North Melbourne and all these areas. And I went out there today and I met with one of the guys, Noor, and we sat down and we discussed what we're going to do moving forwards and how the community is going to unite around these guys, and how we can bring in education, how we can bring in legal rights so they understand all of that. We've gone in there and said, on top of that, so legal rights, education, we're going to teach them everything that they need in there so that they can move forwards and be stronger than ever before. And in unity, we find strength. And that's not going to be taken away ever again. There'll be no division here. Everything's going to be united and stronger than ever before. So keep that in mind. We also have someone coming out of the woodwork over the next week that is talking from inside one of the hospitals. So one of these hospitals that we know in Victoria, around the Mornington Peninsula, has bought up on hundreds of ventilators back in April. That's back when we were knowing that we were going to get down to 0 people with coronavirus. They bought in hundreds of ventilators into their hospital. They've now mandated masks for all the staff, because what they said was someone got into the hospital, got past the temperature check, got past all the different checks, got up into the wards and got one of the patients became sick from someone who was carrying coronavirus that got past all those checks. I just call bullshit on all this stuff, because they're fixing this narrative to work however they want it to work. And you watch, if they start saying people are getting sick in the areas where they're turning up all these EMFs and radio waves from around Australia, we'll be there every step of the way. We'll advocate for these nurses as well. We'll advocate for anyone who needs people, because we're a united front and we can't be separated. And I keep on saying this, the more and more people that wake up and the more and more people that unite together, we're going to be more powerful than ever before. That's about all I've got tonight. As I said, we're out at North Melbourne doing the glow sticks. So if there's anyone at Alfred 33, you should be able to look out the window and see a big love heart and a "We See You." They're both out there. So have a look out the window and see if you can see them out on the grass. It's only a token gesture, but we're doing a lot more in the background. So have a look. It did pour. I am freezing cold. And you know what? I don't, don't wish to complain about any of this stuff because we're doing it easy in this stage 3 lockdown. You guys are kick ass, and you guys are going to be stronger than ever before when you come out of here. And you're going to have all these people behind you, and we're not going to forget. The biggest thing is not to forget. Now, one of the biggest things that I say is you have to remember in warfare, it's all about divide and conquer. It's been used for hundreds of years. Now, what we can do is unite and be stronger than ever before. We can't be conquered if we unite. It can't happen. And I strongly feel like every single person on this group and every single person I'm talking to outside here on Facebook and Instagram has so much strength, and that strength and that will to fight and that will to live and that will to be a better person and spread love and kindness is going to defeat anything that these guys are trying to do. Let's keep our eyes open. Watch for tomorrow. We've got a video we're about to drop that has all the information about what's happened over the last 5 days. So when you see that, please share it out into every network you have. Okay? Short one tonight. I'm going to go have a shower and get warm. Peace out.